Welcome to Freelance Sucks. Here we discuss the dark side of freelancing about which nobody usually talks out loud. In this show, we speak with experienced freelancers, and I'm sure listening to their stories helps you prepare for freelancers' challenges. My name is Yuri, I'm a community builder at Code Control and 9am.works, and my guest is Patrick Rossnagel, a freelance full-stack developer with 7+ years of experience in problem solving for startups and corporates, and a love for modern frontends. So, welcome, Patrick.
Hi, Yuri. Thanks for having me.
Always start with the easiest question. For you, as a freelancer, what is the most challenging part of being a freelancer?
Getting clients, getting reliable clients, and getting your dream rates.
What is the difference between getting clients and getting reliable clients?
Getting reliable clients is, yeah, it's a good question. I'm not even sure what I was actually, what I actually meant by that. I think getting reliable clients means clients that would book you over and over again because they know of your skills. And I think once you get your foot in the door and once you had a chance to make an impact and actually make sure that they understand what you bring to the table, is something that obviously you can only do once you get your foot into the door. But also being able to within a project, being able to find new areas where they might also need someone like you is something that is definitely should definitely not be neglected in the during the projects. What I mean by that is that obviously if you're in a project and if you're doing your regular work, I always try to keep, I personally always try to keep an eye out for other opportunities that the client has right now, but also challenges that might come up for them in the future. So I always try to see the bigger picture of maybe the current thing that they're working on, but also things that they might run into in the future. One of those things might be that we have accessibility regulations coming up next year, and everyone has to obviously think of these. And whenever I'm in a project, I try to bring this up and say, well, this is coming up. You've heard it from me. You might have heard it before, but this is something that you would have to deal with in the very near future. So if I can start digging into that myself right now during this project scope that we have right now, I might start ticking some boxes already now. And I also obviously take this as my experience for further projects that I can then say, well, I did this before. This is the client. This is what came out of it. And they had the same challenges or similar challenges as you. So I might just bring this to the table and solve it for you as well, because obviously you know that you have to meet these regulations in the end. And things like that. Just keeping an eye out for opportunities that might come up, but at least not just doing your job and say, okay, well, mic drop, I did my job and hope to never hear back from you. Obviously, that's that's probably the worst attitude to have. But just thinking ahead, thinking of challenges that might come up, and also staying in contact with the people, right? My engagement that I had up until mid of this year, I'm still in contact with all the people from the project, and I keep asking how is it going, because they have a permanent employee that kind of replaced me as the freelancer. They have been looking for a year for someone, and they had a couple of interviews, and I was not in the process obviously, but I was always knowing that they had an interview here and there, and then the person just didn't show up, or they didn't meet the tech stack, or on a personal level it just didn't match up. And now almost after a year of me being in the project, they found someone, and I started working together with them and getting them into the project and how everything works. And now I think that they found a good new employee and they're happy with them. But I still keep asking, okay, has he found a good way to get into the project? Is everything working fine? They're also on a technical level trying to find someone who could replace me, because I've been working extensively on a testing suite that goes throughout the company, and that kind of serves as a blueprint for different other projects that they have. So that's a different topic than the actual development part of the application that they have been working on all the time. So obviously, I also keep asking, is there someone who actually manages this, who can bring it further, who can extend it? Is there someone who knows their stuff, or is there, because it can also be management issues, right? They have to run after them and chase them and be sure that things are being actually done. And there's lots of aspects that might not work out. So I try to always stick my head back in and say, well, are things going nice for you? If not, can we talk about it? Right.
You know what I hear is that you are always going an extra mile, that you are not just there to deliver what you was hired for as a freelancer, but always checking like what's happening, what's going on, how you can be helpful. So I'm curious, how do you deliver your findings? How do you deliver your information to clients?
What do you mean my findings?
I mean, like that you see that there is an upcoming thing, there are upcoming challenges,
Right.
you will deal with them in the future. How do you talk about this with clients? How do you talk about this in a way that they will listen to you?
I'm not really sure if I really know how I do it, because I kind of just do it. I just bring it up. I'm like, okay, well, I see this coming up. Have you thought of it or not? And that's probably the conversation starter where it goes into the direction. But I think there's many approaches how you can bring it up. Obviously, you could just say, well, this is super important. You have to deal with it right now. Hire me. But there's also the nicer or the more advanced way, let's say, where you just say, well, I noticed this, and I noticed that you haven't dealt with it yet. Do you have something who can take care of this for you? Because it's something that definitely comes up. And obviously, if you're deep in the project, and if you know all the dirty little details of things that might come up, it's actually my responsibility to bring it up. That's how I see it, right? If I know of something that definitely has to be dealt with in the future, and if I know that no one else has it on their radar, then I wouldn't be happy with myself leaving, not bringing it up.
What is the most time-consuming thing you must deal with as a freelancer except for work itself?
Most time-consuming thing is probably connecting with others. Um, but that's not a time consumer that I dislike. It's something that I really value a lot, because yeah, it just broadens my horizon so much. I think starting out as a freelancer, you're all by yourself in the beginning, and that's something that is very unusual if you come from a long-term employment history. Uh, and if you don't really know what you're getting yourself into, you're all by yourself. No one owes you anything. So if you don't do the tasks that lead to you having a new engagement, no one's going to do it for you, right? No one's obliged, or no one owes you anything in terms of needing to get in terms of needing to give you a project or hand you money, whatever. Uh, yeah, it's all on you, and it's all the responsibility is on you, but also all the freedom is on you. And the freedom of choice is a modern myth, at least for me right now, because it's the market has changed so much that there's not so much freedom of choice where you want to start your project, where what clients you want to work with, what industries you want to step into. It's more of, okay, what can you actually get? And that's not a very comfortable situation, because you're just adapting. You're not making the rules, but you're adapting to the rules made by others. And yeah, that's definitely a downer, at least for me, because that's not something I was prepared for. I thought, well, here I am. I'm a developer with several years of experience. You can hire me. Let's go. And the response was just non-existent, right? Because I was, as you said in the beginning already, I was just a number. I was not really standing out from the crowd, and I didn't think that I would have to. And that's something that I had to learn along the way. That obviously, just staying a number and behaving as just a normal number is not landing you anywhere. It's not getting you anywhere.
I feel like connecting to people, that's exactly what also helps you to stand out. When you build those personal connections, when you're saying to the world that here I am, look at me, like not in a way like bragging about, yeah, you definitely have to brag a little here and there, talking about the project that you've
Yeah.
done and like what are results you accomplished. But um, where do you usually find people to connect to? So what are the places where you build your professional network in?
Right. So there's this great community that you're very aware of, and I'm super happy to promote it here. It's the Uplink community. They have a Slack. They have their own Slack with lots of channels with different topics, and it's just the best place to start, I think, for actually getting into personal connections with like-minded people in the freelance business, but also with people that um, that share their knowledge and their experiences for free because they're interested in other experiences and obviously one just looking are just looking for the exchange. Obviously there's also at least in major cities some actual local meetups in person. I wanted to attend the first one last month but I couldn't make it, but that's definitely something that I want to pursue in the future because I think that getting to know the local people also opens up doors for local clients very quickly. At least if you're not one of the numbers again, but if you show up at the meeting, you're definitely not just a number anymore. And having this personal connection and leaving your stamp or just making sure that people remember you also has a certain chance in itself that they might remember you in the right moment as being the guy that can deliver this or that for their current client. And I mean, I if I go there and if I meet people and if I know their backgrounds, I cannot help but think of them. If they manage to stick in my mind for long enough, then I know who to call if something comes up with my current clients.
Do you have some kind of database of your connections or do you keep them all in mind?
Um, some of them I keep in mind because they somehow stick in my mind. But I think I would actually look through my LinkedIn contacts and search for the keywords to find someone if I don't remember the name. That's probably how I would approach it. But yeah, having a personal database or having like a CRM even with your connection is probably the smarter way. But yeah, for me, I don't know. I still think that might be overkill, but it probably isn't.
Yeah, you know, sometimes always the grass is greener on the other side, and it's always good to have some things, but it's always there are things that you have, and that's always some process that you're working with. And I'm curious, what is the most nerve-wracking thing that you must deal with as a freelancer?
The most nerve-wracking thing is a very personal one because um, starting as a freelancer was something that I didn't expect to get me into trouble, and it did very quickly and very elegantly by just not being what I expected it to be. So I had very false assumptions and misconceptions about my start as a freelancer. I started in April 23, and so I quit my job at the end of 22, and that's where my as ChatGPT, where they say their current knowledge goes up until September this year. My current knowledge went up until the end of 22, and that's where I decided, okay, I definitely want to go down that path, and I want to start pursuing a career as a freelancer. But I didn't really see the big picture at that point in time. I didn't really see that the market has changed and that obviously many different factors like coming out of Corona or coming out of the COVID phase with the Ukraine war at the same time, also AI being on the rise. All those factors obviously have a big impact on the market, and I just didn't see it. I was like, okay, well, I'm in a safe place. Nothing can happen to me. People will approach me, and that's how it's been for the last couple of years, especially during the COVID times, because obviously you could just write, okay, I can read and write code and probably would be approached by everyone having great rates and nothing for you to actually do in terms of getting clients. And that obviously has changed drastically, as we know right now. But 2 years ago, the world was a different place, and that's when I based my decision, or that's where I based my decision on to start pursuing the freelancer career. And then obviously I had the biggest reality check. So the first 3 months after I started, I had no project. I was, try because, and then you talk to recruiters and they all tell you, yeah, you just have to be more full stacky. Don't focus on only front end things. They all want full stack guys. So I started digging into these things and kind of widening my technical skills. At the same time, I had this voice in my head saying, well, that's not really what you want to do. So you shouldn't focus on doing things that other people tell you. But and that's also not what I had in mind when starting as a freelancer. Obviously, I didn't want to react. I wanted to be enough as I was, and obviously hopefully bring enough to the table that I would get hired anyway, even if I'm not the perfect full stack guy with 20 years of experience. And at the same time, obviously, you also hear these voices, especially in the uplink community, and also through coachings or through like freebie videos, where they always keep telling you, you have to focus, you have to be more specific, you have to be super sharp in your positioning, because then you're not just a number, then you're not comparable to others. And then once you reach that point that you're not comparable, no one will question your rates. And I'm 100% sure that that's true. But at the same time, if your current positioning is not giving you clients, then you obviously start questioning your current positioning, and you start wiggling around yourself about what else needs to be checked or what else needs to be done to be more attractive to the market. So actually, I was adapting. I was not making the rules. I was adapting to the rules made by the others at that point in time. And at some point, by coincidence, I would say, it's not even something that I say is reproducible. I stuck in the head of one of the recruiters that I met. She was early on in her career, and maybe that's why we somehow clicked. And she remembered me, and she was like, I have this project coming up. I think you're a perfect candidate. Let's go and let's get into the interview. And that's why I was able to land my 1-year project, which was great. But yeah, at that point in time, and now we're going back to the emotional part. At that point in time, I had 3 months in of not having any income. I had my second child, my daughter, born in the beginning of the year. So I wasn't really, or actually no, that was the year before. I was 23. She was born this year, but last year we already knew at that time that my wife was pregnant. So obviously, she being in the health sector, she wasn't able, or she was not laid off. But in Germany, we have this thing called Arbeitsverbot or Beschäftigungsverbot, which means that she wasn't allowed to work anymore, because obviously you have radiation and things like that. That's not really good for a pregnant woman. So she was she was still having her regular income, but we knew that she obviously wouldn't she wouldn't have the regular income over a longer period of time. So that was one thing that was super happy. Obviously, that made me super happy. But at the same time, I saw my reserves getting lower and lower, and seeing the family grow. At the same time, seeing your money stack shrink is not something that I recommend to anyone. So that obviously was a rather tough time, because obviously it just didn't really match up. Those two things were side by side, and they were just not aligned.
It's really nerve-wracking, I think, like having all the things coming up together. And considering all the challenges that you know at the moment, if your friend wanted to become a freelancer, what are top 3 things you'd advise them to think about before doing it?
I would definitely advise them to make sure that they have clients lining up, if that's somehow possible. And if that's not possible, I would tell them that this is a sign that it might not be the right time. Not the right time because the market is not ripe, but also not the right time because their positioning isn't sharp enough, or their skill set is not asked for enough. If you cannot get reliable proposals that could actually lead into that could actually move into actual project engagements, then that's probably sign enough that you shouldn't wait. You should never wait. You should always keep working on getting to that point, because only relying on the market changing itself is not something that, yeah, obviously in the last 2 years it hasn't happened, or it hasn't happened as it should have. So just waiting it out is not an option. So if you see that right now you're tapping into it, and you might, I mean, you can freely just create a profile everywhere and just see how things are, and maybe if you are getting approached or not, and you can apply it to the project and see how the responses are. And if you see that the response is not what you would expect, then it's either you having to adapt, but it's also at the same time the market that kind of has to change back to being in favor of the freelancing community again.
Patrick, I wish to have the sky's the limit, but time is the limit. So the final question, if you were starting freelancing today, what is one thing you would have done differently?
That's a tough one, because it's only one thing. I would do so many things differently, but it's probably the one that I just mentioned, being way more prepared than I was. Prepared as in having a clear understanding of what you bring to the table, having a clear positioning, and also being able to convey that to everyone in a good way, and at the same time being prepared as in having the resources to gap a longer time than I was able to. I was able to gap 3 months, and then getting my engagement still doesn't mean that you get paid by day one. So I had to get a special family credit to gap this time again. And being in my 30s is not something that I would expect to run back to my mom and ask for a special loan, right? But it is how it is. It was how it was, and it had to be done in a way. So that's not something that I would recommend to anyone, because it can be avoided, and I should have avoided it, but I just didn't see it coming to the extent that it actually happened.
Got it. Patrick, thank you so much for having such an honest and open conversation and for sharing your experience.
Thanks, Yuri.
And thank you so much for listening. If you like the show, hit the like button on 5 stars and share it with your friend. That's it. We're done. See you in the next episode.